Hello, everyone. My name is Anica, and this is Himbo. My pronouns are she, they, his pronouns are he, him, and I am the creator of Sin Eater, which is such a cool game, and I am so excited to tell y'all everything that's cool about it, and there is so much that is cool about it.
My name is Nala or Jay. My pronouns are they, them, and I am the art director at Hunters Entertainment. I also do art direction freelance as well as illustration within the TTRPG space. Besides art, I also do voice acting, sensitivity consulting, and actual play stream performance. You can find all of my work online at naladraws.com, and that is my handle on every social media as well, at naladraws.
Now, before we get into the real historical context of Sin Eater, which is absolutely rad, and I'm excited to talk about it, I just quickly want to say that the nature of this game means that you may run into some things while you're playing that mirror real world sources of pain and trauma. The themes of the game can include death and dying, grief, loss, religious trauma, isolation, loneliness, obsessive thoughts. And of course, while you're making your character, where you will be confronting your own sins, and you'll, of course, be choosing to absolve or condemn the sins of the corpse in front of you, you're also going to be dealing with the difficulties and the baggage and just some of the darkness that comes along with what we associate traditionally with sins. So if it ever gets to be too much, you can always set it down, walk away, and return again when you're ready. I want to talk about the inspiration behind why I made it. So there's so many awesome pieces of media that were really inspiring for it. As you've probably seen from the Kickstarter page, from the art that we've posted online, from this video itself, the art style and the tone of it is very inspired by Morkborg, which is made by Pell Nilsson and Johan Nohr. I mean, Johan did the cover. He did a bunch of incredible spreads inside, but it very much has that sort of very kind of nihilistic tone that Morkborg does. So again, totally stylistically, little bit setting wise, that was a huge inspiration for Sin Eater. Another really big one was actually the video game Pentiment by Obsidian Entertainment, which was directed by Josh Sawyer. That game was so inspiring for Sin Eater because I played it and you can tell it's the type of game where they didn't make it going, how do we make this broadly appealing for everyone? They very much went, I just think this time period and this art style and this subject is really interesting, and I'm going to make that into a game. And if people like it, great. If they don't, that's okay. I've made a cool game. Definitely worth checking out. It is a game about a Bavarian monastery where a murder occurs, and it is beautiful. It really inspired Sin Eater because the art style for it is the sort of illuminated manuscript art style, and it's just stunning, stunning, stunning. And I looked at that and went, I want to make that. So a lot of the sort of old style spreads, a lot of the fun marginalia, a lot of the fonts were inspired by Pentiment, which if you're like, how are fonts inspired by another game? You have to play Pentiment. It is a huge part of that game. So for all my fellow font heads out there, definitely check out Pentiment. And if you like Pentiment, you will love Sin Eater. The final inspiration that I really want to talk about is the book Between Two Fires by Christopher Buehlman. It takes place in 1348 during the height of the bubonic plague in Normandy. And basically, I mean, it's kind of Morkborgy, it's kind of Dark Soulsy. It's just God has abandoned us and the demons are coming. And it's just this very gothic, amazing, bleak, nihilistic book, but also there's kind of this thread of hope that runs through it all. And the setting and the supernatural relation to the non-supernatural world, and kind of some of the body horror in the game was really inspirational for Sin Eater. But then I'm hoping when you play it and you get to check it out, that that little thread of hope comes through for you as well. Now let's get into the historical context for Sin Eater. So A lot of people actually don't know this, which is wild because it's so cool. But sin eating was a real practice. It's been something that's kind of been practiced all throughout time, all through different parts of the world. But for this game specifically, it drew inspiration from the practice of sin eating that occurred in Wales, a little bit in Ireland, and primarily in the Welsh marches in the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries in the United Kingdom. Basically, what was happening at that time is that if someone died without their last rites being given, uh, that's no good. That person is condemned forever. So what some families would do is that they would hire the sin eater. And the sin eater, who was usually a person who was, really shunned in the community, which kind of makes sense considering what their job was. But the sin eater would come into their home and, kind of varies based on the practice, but they would either eat, just a chunk of bread and some ale. They'd either eat it next to a body, or more often, they would place it on top of the body and then they would eat it off of that person to ritualistically take their sins upon themselves so that that person could be absolved. It's an absolutely fascinating practice. And what's really interesting is we know very, very little about it. There's very little documentation about why someone would become a sin eater. As I said, you were very isolated. People really looked down on you if you became a sin eater. So no one's really sure why you would want to do that job. But it's so interesting. It's an amazing, fascinating practice, and I strongly recommend reading up on it if it piques your interest because when I first learned about it, I think I was maybe 8 or 10 years old, and it's just been in my brain since then because that is fascinating. It's just so cool to me. Another part of the game, actually, so Sin Eater having this historical practice of sin eating, that one's obvious. It's in the title. But another really cool mechanic to the game is we have a coin flip mechanic where what you're having to do is you're having to balance the four humors. And the four humors is also based on the historical practice of humorism. So what humorism is, that's another one where people generally associate it with, the Greek philosophers, but this idea that there are these essences that kind of determine your health, your physical and mental, that's been a concept for a very, very long time. But in this case, we are looking at the Greek philosophers who kind of created humorism as a medical thing. So, according to the Greek physician Hippocrates, there are four humors that determine your health, they determine your personality, they determine absolutely everything. Those are blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. So, phlegm makes sense if you've ever heard of someone that has like a phlegmatic personality. It's because they have too much phlegm. If someone has a sanguine personality, clearly they have way too much blood in their system. Similarly, if you've heard of someone that's choleric or melancholic, that's yellow bile and black bile. So, according to this theory, if you were a little too hot-blooded, it's like, well, we clearly need to drain your blood, which PSA, bloodletting doesn't, don't do that. Don't do that. But that's what they would do with that. Or if you had too much black bile, apparently eating lentils helps with that. So it's really interesting, really fun. And by having these two coins, the butcher's coin and the baker's coin, you flip them and you figure out, okay, as you're making this meal, as you're cleansing these sins, did you also appropriately factor in the humors of this person? Or is there imbalance of humors that maybe you didn't catch exactly going to affect the taste of your meal and affect the trajectory of their soul? So we've talked about the game's past, but let's talk about the game's present and your future with Sin Eater. So Sin Eater is broken up into sections, and the first one is Genesis. So kind of just what it sounds like, that is the character and corpse creation. So you start out, you choose, your name, your epithet, your gender, and you kind of talk about how you became a sin eater.
A ritual meal bespoke to the sin of the dead and consumed proximally to the corpse to facilitate the transference of debasement and vice. A feast to tip the scales towards salvation or damnation. Hired by the living for your disposable soul, the discretions of the dead instead find their home in you, our sin eater. So there's major sins, minor sins, and modern sins, which is really cool. So the major sins are lust, envy, gluttony, greed, wrath, and acedia. The minor sins are loitering, banality, blasphemy, hooliganism, which is a fantastic word, pedantry, and hypocrisy. And the modern sins are conspiracy, parasociality, voyeurism, crab mentality, schadenfreude, and bootlicking. I think I'm gonna roll. I think that'll be cool. So I will roll a d4, and then on 4 I'll just re-roll to see which one I get. That is a 1. So I will be using a major sin, and then I will roll a d6. 4, which is greed, an insatiable appetite for money, power, and status, an obsession for one's cup to always be running over. Gather a candle, which I have here. 1 or 2 six-sided dice in this corner here, and something with which to write and sketch, which I have a whole pile of paper off screen. Your coins and your mat here. The sundry components of your ritual may be set aside for now. Place your unlit candle on the table before you. Knock 3 times on the surface around it. Above for the future you hope comes to pass, to the left for what was, and to the right for what is. Light the candle and begin. Okay, next we have epithets. Your reputation precedes you, a warning of the wickedness to follow. First and least, your name. Write it. Roll 2d6 to learn what epithet portends you. So I got a 5, and that is blood brined blank my name. I decided to use loose sheets of paper instead of buying a notebook for this game. I think it allows more creative freedom. But you don't have to do all this. You can simply write stuff down on a note page or type it in your phone, make a Google Doc or something to record your gameplay. There's no one correct way to play this or any solo journaling games, which is why I love them. But what I've done here is create a page. This will essentially be akin to the character sheet part of this game. I will record my character's name and my epithet on here. I think I'm going to pick the name Eden, spelled Edyn, mostly because blood brined Eden sounds really cool. The next prompt in the book says, write, what did you do to earn this loathsome sobriquet. I have been a sin eater for so long, those in my community have bestowed this name upon me, for where I tread reeks with the stench of blood.
It's not necessarily a title of honor, but you're not just creating yourself, you're creating this corpse and their sin. So you get to roll or choose the sin that you'll be cleansing today. And it is very important to me to stress that you can choose. As mentioned, talking about the content warnings, some sins you might look at it and be like, that's not a door that I want to open. So feel free, roll, have fun randomizing it, but also feel free to be like, nah, this one sounds fun. I'm going to do that one. So you choose their background, talk about who they were as a person, how you felt about them. Were they an enemy, a lover, something in between? Uh, and then also talk about how they died.
Your traits: born, bestowed, bequeathed. I roll 1d6 to learn how you move through this world or how this world moves through you. And then after I roll, I will write my answer to the questions posed. 1d6. That is a 6. Whether you are beloved or reviled, there's one thing upon which all can agree. Something about you doesn't seem quite human. When you move, your shadow takes a second to follow. They swear your eyes were a different color yesterday. What has carrying the weight of the dead done to put you half in the grave? That's really cool. All right. I am not quite human. I think we're just that just goes along with my whole like vampire feelings from earlier. But I need to stop playing vampires because I play so many vampires. I'm gonna write in my traits here. Actually, I'm gonna write in brown ink. This fun little brown fountain pen that I have. Something about me doesn't seem quite human. My clothes are always dirty, covered in blood from meals past, and there is an atrocious scent, one that drives most away from my presence. Sin eating is such a lonely practice, even as I am surrounded with others. Often I feel most at home engaging in my funerary practices. I think whoever I was before died a long time ago. Next is gender. This is such a cool page. I love every single one of these options. Gender is fake. Rolls the dice. That was a 3. You want to be a pretty thing. A trail of smashed mirrors follows in your wake. I love that. The other one I really like on here is the 6th option, which says, your gender, like all things in this life, is in flux. Which one do you wear today? Oh, God. I was once beautiful, I'm sure of it. Are we not all beautiful in one way or another? The Lord crafts us all, broken and beautiful, passionate and flawed, for after all, we are only human. But now, I haunt what once was. I can't bear to look at myself. What was once pure and kind-hearted is now sinful, blackened by all I have taken on. I do think I am still kind, though. Why else would I be here, doing this? Next is the archive. Written records serve many purposes. Roll a 1d6 to learn for whom you chronicle. So if I get evens or odds. All right. Dice. That is even. Your words are for your eyes alone. Perhaps this means you can dive deeper into your own past sins, admit your own trespasses as they relate to the trespasses of the dead, or other similarly intimate aspects of self. Ooh, cool. Okay, and then I roll again, evens or odds. That's another 2. I feel like this dice is just rolling 2s for me. All right, evens. Do you journal all of your ritual meals, or is there something about this one that compels you to commit it to paper? Ooh. Ooh, okay. I, Eden Joe, do chronicle all of what I do. Perhaps I think this will somehow absolve me in the end, for when I finally meet the eternal judge, she will take pity on me. Or maybe not. Who am I kidding? I am damned, and there is no changing that. Then, perhaps, my writings will serve as evidence of my existence long after I have passed, or a warning to those who may follow in my stead. I'm so happy. These look so cool. I love scrapbooking. Transgressions. But what of your own undeniably extant transgressions? After all, why would a pure soul choose to become the wretched sumpter of sins? Roll and then write. So I roll on the sins table to begin anew. I will roll a d4 to determine what kind of sins I have. Oop, that is a minor sin. It's a 2, so then rolling another dice. Oh, that landed in a pile of cables. Try again. Let's see. We have 3 blasphemy. And I will roll one more. Because I think I should have many sins. We got major sins. And then roll another d6. I got acedia, which is the one that I don't know. But it says here acedia, neglect of duties through self-pity or preoccupation with trivial things. That's really interesting. Okay, so I have blasphemy and acedia. So I will. Time to write about that now. I have here paper money that is burned at Chinese funerals. We believe that burning material goods will allow our ancestors to have those goods in their afterlife. So often at Chinese funerals, we will be burning lots of paper money and paper replicas of luxuries so that our deceased loved ones can have a house, can have a car, can have TV, can have games, etc. And I thought for a game so centered around death, it would be only fitting to have or include some of this paper money in my scrapbooking. It is incredibly bad luck for me to have this paper here, however. So I am sin eating in real life. I think there's something poetic about writing my own transgressions on this piece of stationery that is much paler white than the sort of off-white cream paper I've been using. I like the symbolism, the visual symbolism of that. And again, I get to use all of this cool fancy paper that I haven't used before. Gives me a really good excuse to. And this particular stationery I got as a gift from a friend, and I'm so happy that I actually get to use it now. Transgressions. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I have lost so much at an early age. My losses grew in number as I grew older, so much so I let doubt fester within me. How could I live with all of this pain? Why me? Why? What have I done to deserve such punishment? O merciful God, look kindly upon me, a humble servant. Forgive me, Lord, for I have sinned. Forgive me, forgive me, forgive. Hopelessness is mercy, I think. After all, what else could I do? Perhaps if I already could save others from the same fate. Forgive me, Jesus, for I have sinned. Okay, and then I need to decide who this person is. I think what would be cool is if the person that I was asked to consume sins for was a disgraced nun. To go along with greed, because that's the first thing I think I rolled in this game. Perhaps the sin of greed overtook her and she started taking some of the church offerings, saving a little for herself, and not really living life as a nun in the way that uh the religion would call for, given that you were supposed to live uh lower, like in poverty almost, to uh put worship above all else. I'm speaking as someone who doesn't know a lot about what nuns do um, on a very detailed very detailed way, but I do know that charity is a huge um, part of the beliefs, um, and living in service to others and serving your community and whatnot. And so I think a greedy person to twist that is interesting to me. So, Ryan, can you Google nun names?
We'll go with medieval nun names. The typical ones are Agnes, Elizabeth, Catherine, Anne, Barbara. I got some names of medieval nuns in 12th century Germany. Leucart, Inglewich, Ermengart, Mathlet,
Ooh,
Regilind, Diumut.
Regilind. Sister Regilind.
uh,
How do you spell that?
Regilind.
All right, and then there's a question. Are you more likely to forgive or condemn a sin that aligns with your own past? And now to the meat and bone and gristle of it all. Why must you sup here tonight? What shape did this sin take while the person was alive? Were their transgressions to blame for their death? How do you know of these sins? Town gossip? Confessions to a local religious leader passed along to you? Or through means less corporeal? And then I roll to determine my relationship with the dead, and I can roll to determine whether I will condemn or absolve the sin or sins of the dead. I can roll separately for each sin, or if you do not wish to leave it up to chance, simply choose salvation or damnation. Their sins. Tonight I shall dine in service to Sister Regilind, a nun who is disgraced after she was found taking some of the church's offerings for herself. Oh, Lord, allow me to cleanse her of this transgression. She was tempted by the devil and deserves the chance to repent, especially given that she came to me herself, knowing that she was dying soon. Please forgive her. This one says, roll to determine your relationship with the dead. I kind of answered that she was someone in the community who came to me. But I think I will roll a d6 just to determine evens or odds. I don't think the first option where they were a despised enemy makes sense, given what I've already written, but I will do evens odds for any other thoughts and feelings about them. Okay, that was odds. So I have no strong feelings about them, which in a place where everyone knows everyone is unusual in and of itself. I don't think I need to write about that because I think that is sort of covered in what I wrote already. And then the last thing, and after this, then we're done with Genesis. Perhaps not all sins are truly deserving of forgiveness, and no one but you will know if you work towards salvation or damnation. After all, this is your cross to bear alone. Roll a d6 or choose to determine whether you will condemn or absolve the sin or sins of the dead. Okay, I'm not trying to condemn her, so I'm not going to roll for this, so I'll just read this one. You are preparing a meal to forgive, to take it upon your own head. You're eating to absolve. If they were an enemy, or if this sin is one that you view in a particularly negative light, why are you choosing to grant them clemency? Which also I think was covered here in the stuff I've already written. But I think I'll just speak aloud on this. I think, given everything that I've said, my character is someone who had a really hard life and strayed from religion, and now is sort of knows that they are condemned to an eternity of pain. But I think the pain only will mimic what their life has been thus far. So they have a very like what is left to lose attitude. But until they finally die, I think they want to try to help as many other people as possible from suffering the same fate. So I think like that's why Eden is in this in the first place and why they're doing what they're doing and sort of their thoughts behind sin eating as a practice. So actually I don't think I need to write anything additional. So yes, now we are done with Genesis.
So once you've created yourself and the corpse whose sin or sins you will be cleansing today, it's time to get into the ritual. So the ritual has two main components. It has the items intrinsic and the items extrinsic. So some examples of prompts that you may see in the game book, or you may also see in some of the stretch goals, are an insatiable hunger in the belly, or the blush of first love on the cheeks, a belly full of laughter, or a head full of daydreams. So you get those prompts and you have to think, what do I have in my home that represents that? And then the prompt itself tells you where to put it. A belly full of laughter. You place it on the corpse's stomach. A head full of daydreams. That one's pretty self-explanatory. And that's one of those where, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to see what people go and find and put on this body, because you have to think about what within your own life represents those things. It kind of creates this very controlled character bleed where you're kind of blurring the line between player and page. And I'm really, really stoked to see what y'all do with that.
Ooh, okay. So I need to find seek and place on the body before you components from your surroundings representing at least 3 of the following. Okay. But first I'm going to get my mat ready. Actually, no, I'll just keep this off to the side here. All of my things. These coins. Piece of your heart held close to the chest. A piece of my heart. I know what I'm gonna get. I'll be right back. So for the items extrinsic, I have a utensil to consume, poised to the lips. I have chopsticks. I have a relic of travels placed at the feet. I have this really old vintage mahjong tile. These actually I'm supposed to not have here. These off to the side. I have a piece of your heart held close to your chest. I have this dried orchid flower from one of the dates that I went on with my partner. This was actually the dinner where he met my parents. Your heart is on this side. A symbol of penitence set at the knee. I have this shell. I think, show it to the camera. A shell found walking on the beach. I like to imagine that maybe this character thought a lot about their actions while taking long walks on the beach by themselves. Okay, so I have placed my items. The items intrinsic. And I roll 1d6. Where did any of my dice go? Here we go. Let's take this guy. Everything just jumped. That is a 4. A greasy candle made from the lard of a two-headed calf, not slaughtered but left to die as nature saw fit. How did this candle make its way into your possession? All right, how did I get this candle? When the calf died, many saw its death as an omen, a sign, a curse. Who better to make use of its body than I? Her name was Sorrel.
So now you've got your ritual spread all set up. You've gotten your items extrinsic that are laying on the table before you. You've gotten your items intrinsic that have that little bit of supernatural element to them. But what about the eating part of Sin Eater? We're getting into the repast. So that's the part where you actually have to come up with your recipe and make your meal. And this is such a broad thing that you get to interpret so individually, which is amazing. So if you say you're cleansing the sin of wrath and you're like, wrath, that's probably spicy. I just want to make a meal that uses a lot of hot sauce. That's perfect. That is a completely valid way to interpret the ingredients that you want to put in and the type of food that you want to make. Or maybe you want to get a little fancier with it. Maybe you're cleansing envy, that sort of that contempt and that bitterness. So maybe something like you create a recipe that incorporates bitter melon or dandelion greens or like white vinegar. So you could get really into it, or you could have even more fun with it where it doesn't necessarily have to be a recipe that you can do in real life. Maybe you'll do something that's like pork rinds and champagne, like just a weird combination that feels a little voyeuristic. I don't know. There's so many cool ways to interpret this. Or maybe you could create something that uses ingredients that don't exist in the real world or can't be eaten in the real world. It's entirely up to you. And you can make it look like an actual cookbook, do little sketches in there, or do little sprigs of thyme tied up. I really love this section because you get so much freedom in how you choose to interpret it. You can pull recipes from your childhood. You can pull recipes from the internet. If you're not a good cook, I certainly am not. There's no wrong way to engage with this part of the game.
Now I've reached repast. Mise en place. What recipe do I choose? Is it based on the sin-specific qualities of the ingredients themselves? Are your decisions influenced by your own past misdeeds and misfortunes, or is it determined by the life lived by the sinner? How do you incorporate your intrinsic and extrinsic ritual items as you gather your culinary necessaries? List and draw your list of ingredients. A recipe for greed. Tonight I shall dine to absolve Sister Regiland of her sins. What better way to do so than to cook a meal, a humble meal, one she often ate herself, but eaten in excess. So for tonight, I will make rice, a simple soup, some bread, and I shall eat and eat and eat and eat. She was a nun, supposed to live frugally, so I shall consume greatly, and whatever is left over shall be thrown away. If I can't have it, no one will.
So you've made your meal and your little pots are boiling away and your little oven is cooking away. But there's that whole humors part that we talked about before. So if the game was just you make your recipe, you eat a nice meal, everyone goes home, you got to have more to it than that. So now let's bring in the balancing portion. You are trying to come up with a meal that will absolve the sins of this complicated, complex person. And there's so much more to people than you ever know. And that includes their four humors. Did this person have too much yellow bile? Did they have too much phlegm? Did they have a deficit of blood? You need to fix that. And that is what we do with our coin. So, as mentioned, we have the butcher's coin and the baker's coin, and each side of each one represents one of the four humors. So, you flip each one of those coins once, and putting it in the context that we all know, if you get heads, tails, you're good to go. It's balanced. You're going to have an excellent meal, and the soul is going exactly where you want it to go. Say you get a heads, and a heads, tails. Ooh, those humors are a little bit discordant. There's going to be some baggage that goes along with this soul, wherever you're sending it, whether you choose to absolve or choose to condemn. Or maybe you get heads, tails, or heads, and those humors are entirely out of whack. You have made an absolute dog's dinner of this dinner. Something very bad is going to happen. This soul that you are trying to adjudicate for in the afterlife, it's not going down smoothly, and you are going to have to confront what parts of this person, what parts of their sin are going to be sticking with you.
Now I flip some coins. Place the 2 coins before you. Here they are. Each side representing one of the 4 humors. So we have... Can I successfully hold this to the camera? Yes. No, I can't. Yes, I can. We have the baker's coin. This side is black bile, melancholy, depression, cancer, associated with coldness, dryness, and the season of autumn, of a melancholic nature. And then this side is yellow bile, ambition, aggression, digestive effluvia, associated with warmth, dryness, and the season of summer, of a choleric nature. And this one is the butcher's coin. This side is phlegm, aloofness, reservation, a taciturn disposition, represented by the clear or white secretions of the body, associated with coldness, wetness, the season of winter, of a phlegmatic nature. And this side is blood, enthusiasm, openness, a gregarious disposition, considered the source of energy for the body and soul, associated with warmth, wetness, and the season of spring, of a sanguine nature. Flip each coin twice, note the results. All right. I have I have flipped black bile. And I got yellow bile the second time. And now for the butcher's coin. I have rolled blood. And I have rolled phlegm. So that was actually a perfect heads, tails, heads, tails. So that means I have balanced humors. The 4 seasons of the soul in perfect harmony. What recipe did you choose that represented each in such measured ways? Balanced humors. To do what I do, to recognize such evil within myself and others, it drains me, depleting my coffers of what little I have left. But I chose this. I chose this. So if I have to throw away the remnants of my meal despite all those in need, so be it. If I must commit sin so another may be forgiven, so be it. May God have mercy on her.
Your meal has been consumed, your coins have been flipped, your humors have fallen where they lay, and now you have to make a decision about this person's hereafter. Now is where you look at the meal you made, the results of the balancing or imbalance of their humors, and you decide, does this person deserve? Can they even attain eternal salvation? Or do they not deserve that peace? And you get to make that decision now in the aftermath section. But remember, this decision is not yours to make in a vacuum. If those humors ended up discordant and clashing and deeply imbalanced, there is going to be a weight upon you, and you will, as said, need to decide what of them sticks with you.
Your work is done. For better or worse, your meal is made. Time to satiate your hunger or hide the evidence. Place your 2 coins upon the eyes of the dead. A clean remittance for the one ferrying the soul to the hereafter, or perhaps a bribe to cover up the mess you've made. Close the door and salt the threshold. To sever the link, you must speak thrice. A word for the person that was, a word for the body that is, and a word for the soul that will be. A word for the person that was, none. A word for the body that is, dead. And a word for the soul that will be, forgiven. Well, I can do better. I know I can do better. None. Depleted. Renewed. Take out the trash. The handling of the remains is predicated on their most prominent sin. Is this corpse cremated, burial by earth, sky, or sea? Unring the bell. Does your manner of consumption relate to the sins or sins of the dead? Yes, it did. Does your consumption of it change based on the success or failure of preparation? In this instance, I believe this was a success, and I don't think Eden themselves is aware of whether or not things are going to be successful or not. I think the way that they move within the world is their decisions, and I think they believe that whatever God decides, whether they are doing their job or whether the person that they are sin eating for will be forgiven or not. I think Eden lives knowing that that is out of their hands.
So the aftermath, despite the name, is not the final thing you do in the game. A big part of this game, as I mentioned before, is kind of blurring the boundary between the sin eater, and the player. And that's amazing. That can create a really amazing experience. But sometimes you want to be able to close that door and unring that bell. And we have a little decompression section at the end. You blow out the candle, you knock 3 times around it, you fold your page, you close your book. And that's such an important part of the game that shouldn't be skipped because it allows you to decompress and it allows you to pull yourself out of this world that hopefully you really enjoyed playing in.
While your corporeal work may be finished, the soul's trajectory has only just been set. Refer back to the results of your coin flips to determine whether you severed the mortal tether successfully, or if you find yourself returned to the well-worn grooves of failure. And I did have balanced humors. The sins of the dead are condemned or resolved as you see fit. Their soul finds the salvation it deserves. Does something about the body change when this happens? Is there a scent in the air of sulfur or honeysuckle? Or maybe nothing happens at all? What is the weight of sin, really? I think it is very fitting for this if nothing happens. And I think that is reflective of Eden's struggle with belief in God. I think whether something happens or not, Eden is unable to see it. And I think this is the case for almost every person that they serve or have served. And now I fold the corner of your final page upward back to the spine. So if I was using a notebook, if this is the spine here, I would be folding this like so in the book. Your journey continues onward and upward to greener pastures for the time being. So I will fold this way. And you know, I think it's really fitting, and I'll show you that the balanced humor is still visible when I fold this. I did not plan that.
Sin Eater has been consuming my life for the last year and a half, almost 2 years. We have brought in this amazingly talented team, and we are working with Hunters Entertainment, these absolutely fantastic publishers. And this game means the world to me. It'll teach you a little bit about history. It'll show you some beautiful art, and it'll hopefully let you tell a story that maybe you never knew that you could or never knew that you needed to tell. And it would mean the world to me if you backed us on Kickstarter today.